Hi, it's Elyse here at Bowman Library with a whole new middle grade book spotlight. So, for our spotlight this time, we are talking about one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite type of books, and I love to share them, and that is nonfiction. Okay, so nonfiction books, completely true about any type of topic, and I know sometimes nonfiction gets kind of like a bad rap about it, that they're boring, that they're not interesting. Nay, I say, some of the best books I have read have been nonfiction books. I only have 6 amazing ones that I'm going to share with you, that if that's what you think, we're going to prove you wrong today, okay? So, our 6 amazing nonfiction books, let's get started. Our first one is Sinking the Sultana. Here's one of the things I love about nonfiction, and this book is a perfect example of this. I love nonfiction books that talk about something that's happened in our past, in our history, that we don't know anything about. And it's almost like, why don't we know this? And if we did, history class would probably be way more interesting. This is one of those examples, okay? So it is April 1865, and the Civil War is starting to wind down, and prisoners from both sides of the war are starting to be exchanged, okay? And they're then able to go home. Now, in part of the book, you are going to read about Civil War prison camps, which is an interesting topic in and of itself, okay? There was a Confederate prisoner of war camp down in Tennessee, which housed over 2,000 Union soldiers, okay? And these soldiers were then put on board a ship named the Sultana to make their way back up north, okay? And they were going to go up the Mississippi River. Now, the problem was with this is that the ship could only hold 376 people. Plus, it was not in the best shape, okay? Now, so we're cramming 2,000 people on a ship that's only supposed to hold 376 there, okay? So just keep that in mind. There are multiple factors at play as the ship starts to make its way up the river, but this would become the worst maritime disaster in our history. To this day, when the Sultana explodes in the middle of the night and sinks, okay? It's more people died from this than on the Titanic. And we all know about the Titanic. Very few of us know about the Sultana here, okay? Now, this is a true event in history that you probably have never heard of before, but this book is filled with primary sources. There's photos, there's maps, there's diagrams, and more. Again, I learned a ton, okay? I knew nothing about this event, but this book opened my eyes, okay? Highly recommended, incredible read. This is Sinking the Sultana. Okay, The Great and Only Barnum, okay, by one of my favorites. This is Candace Fleming. This is the biography of P.T. Barnum, okay? And biographies, again, sometimes they get a bad rap. Books about real life people, this is an example, okay? So, here we are about P.T. Barnum. He eventually creates the Barnum and Bailey Circus, which was known as the greatest show on earth. But there is so much more to his story than that. You will go behind the scenes and see how Barnum became the person he was known as, okay? And because he wasn't just born that way, and it wasn't always easy, and he wasn't always successful, but he became the world's greatest showman for his ability to sell anything to anyone. Filled with photos from that time, as well as newspaper articles and advertisements that will make you feel as though you were back in the 1800s. An incredible read, and one thing I always love about Candace Fleming when she does a biography, and this one, again, it's no exception, is she presents the person as a whole, for their positives, for maybe their not so positives, and you are going to be left trying to figure out what type of person was P.T. Barnum, honestly, and where is his place in history. An incredible story. This is The Great and Only Barnum. Okay, I love a good history survival story. This might be one you have heard of. It has gotten kind of a little bit more press since it's about been 100 years now. But an incredible read nonetheless. This is Shipwreck at the Bottom of the World. So in 1914, Ernest Shackleton was an explorer, an adventurer, he decides that he wants to be the first person to cross the entirety of Antarctica by foot, okay? So he and a group of sailors, they set off, they get on a ship called the Endurance. It's specifically designed to get down to Antarctica and to survive all the elements and things like that. They make their way down to the bottom of the world to Antarctica, okay? On the way there, though, stuff happens. The ship becomes trapped in ice, and the whole crew is faced with survival questions here, okay? They're faced with surviving the brutal winter on what's called ice floss, okay, which is like, you know, the ice that's surrounding the ship, while facing sub-zero temperatures, food shortages, health crises, and despair for 5 months, okay? That's a long time. Now, deciding that they are going to need to take their survival into their own hands. No one's coming to get them, their shit unstuck here, okay? They decide that they are going to set off on an 800-mile journey in an open boat, hoping they're going to find help. This real-life adventure survival story is one that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Maybe you want to believe this actually did happen. It really, really did happen, okay? Now, this is filled with actual pictures that were taken throughout the epic journey, and they are pretty incredible to look at. I mean, like, there are survivors from this. This isn't just a doom and gloom story, okay? You'll be right there with all of the action and wondering, what would you do if you found yourself as part of Ernest Shackleton's crew in this situation? An epic read. You'll read it in one setting because you're going to need to know what happens. This is Shipwreck at the Bottom of the World. Okay, Chasing Lincoln's Killer. Okay, what I love about this one when we get into it is we think we know what happens. Okay, we all know, you know, Abraham Lincoln was, you know, a president. He was assassinated at Fort Theater by John Wilkes Booth in the end. No, that is not the end. And this book explores what happened that night and the days after, okay? It will keep you on the edge of your seat. There's nonstop action and adventure, okay? Now, we know about Abraham Lincoln. He's assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. Not only was there a plan, though, to assassinate Lincoln that night, but Booth and some of his friends, there's a group of conspirators here, okay? They have plans to assassinate numerous government officials all at the same time, okay? Now, as things start to fall apart, though, Booth knows he needs to get out of Washington, D.C. This then leads to a 12-day crazy manhunt, which is filled with so many twists and turns. You wouldn't believe this actually really happened, but it does, okay? Oh, so good. I thought I knew everything there was about, you know, the Abraham Lincoln assassination. This book, you will then know everything after reading Chasing Lincoln's Killer. Such a great read. Highly recommend it. Okay, Bomb. Love anything by Steve Schenken. This one is no exception. I mean, like, look at all the awards right here. I mean, like, that's just how awesome this book is going to be. Okay, so if you like history, you like some science, you like some spying and some intrigue, all of this right here. Okay, so it's 1938, you know, World War II is kind of, you know, breaking out. You know, we have Nazi Germany, we have, you know, there's like the Allies and the Axis powers. It's 1938, and a German chemist makes this shocking discovery that taking the element uranium, when it can be split into two and placed next to radioactive material, it can make this huge explosion, which then becomes known as the atomic bomb. Now, as the world starts heading even deeper into this world war, the Germans, the Russians, and the Americans each separately enter a race to see who can build the atomic bomb first, okay? Because whoever gets to build it first, they have the ultimate power. But not wanting to leave anything to chance, they each country sends spies into each other's camps, as well as teams whose jobs it is to destroy and sabotage any work that's being made. So everyone's spying on each other, people are trying to destroy each other's works. Oh, it is an edge of your seat, crazy story. And again, like, it's one of those where it's like, how did this stuff happen, okay? Oh, it is so good. Twists and turns. You don't know who you can trust. You don't know, like, who's trying to do what. There's even times where the Americans go and they drop off and like soldiers randomly throughout like Norway and Sweden trying to get to the place where Germany is building theirs so they can go and blow that up. A crazy story. If you love history again, you love spies, bomb. Okay, and our last one is part of the History Smasher series. This is Plagues and Pandemics. I don't know about you. I love a good plague story here, okay? This is part of nonfiction. This is part of history right here, okay? Now, this is all about plagues and pandemics that have happened throughout our history. You will learn about all the ways that people tried to cure those who were sick. I will tell you right now, some things are definitely not as effective as others, like medicine, okay? And as well as the different things people thought caused widespread sickness. There's some pretty crazy ideas out there throughout history on that too. Now, from the Black Plague to polio, smallpox, cholera, and more, some you may have never heard of before, this unique look at our history through the lens of this life and history-altering events is something that you'll become a mini expert on through this book. Now, if you love like the Nathan Hale graphic novel series, if you love learning about weird and random facts, this is the one for you. This is History Smashers, Plagues, and Pandemics. Okay, so those are just 6 nonfiction books. I promise we have a whole section. So if you don't like any of those, I promise we probably definitely have something that you will be interested in. But I challenge you, encourage you, behoove you to try a nonfiction. I just showed you 6 books to prove that nonfiction isn't boring. So come on out to the library. We can find something that you want to read nonfiction-wise, and you will fall in love with nonfiction like I have. I hope you have an incredible week, and I hope you tune back next time for our next middle grade book spotlight.